Hey everyone, this is Thyworm and I bring you more Last Epoch news. Interestingly, the most exciting topic might be that which was left unsaid. Enjoying Last Epoch content? Consider subscribing. Also guys, I'm streaming at twitch.tv/Thyworm if you want to discuss the game over there or in Discord, link down below. You are very welcome. The 11th Hour Games dropped another teaser, this time even more teasier than normal. We'll get into that. Let's start at the top. The post kicks off with a few screenshots as were posted before. There's a new track as well, which is very atmospheric and very much in the spirit of the other tracks. I just hope it plays at appropriate times, but we learned that this will be improved later on, using some next gen new tech even. In terms of features, it's repeating a fair bit of what we know. I've made a video covering all these topics in depth, so I'll link to those videos and not discuss that stuff again in this video. The features in question are Stash Overhaul, a game guide which is basically just an explanation guide for new players, Vacuum Loot for crafting items, Critters, and Footsteps. Nothing new here, let's move to skills. 3 new skills are teased. The Acolyte gets a new skill called Spirit Plague, a necrotic damage over time skill that spreads to other enemies. The game already features something like this with Poison and Void, but those are all parts of passive nodes within other skills. Having something that spreads as the main skill, including its own skill tree, is something new and I'm very excited about this. The main question is, I suppose, will it stack? We will soon find out. Giving the necrotic spells a bit of love is something I can appreciate for sure. The Lich, a mastery of the Acolyte, gets a new skill too, the Death Seal. The concept is extremely interesting because it removes ward and caps health for your character. It's apparently a toggleable skill. If it's not active, your character works like it normally would, having ward as your main defense if you're a Lich. If you toggle it, your ward disappears, your health is capped, and you receive a damage buff. This buff has to be significant really, because removing ward and capping health is a major disadvantage. I'm also wondering here if the amount of ward and health you have before you toggle has any impact on the buff. I hope it does, so there's synergy with creating a ton of ward, then toggling the skill and converting that ward into damage. The last phase, the final toggle, releases a wave of damage. Hopefully this is all integrated as well with the ward numbers before you activated the skill, or maybe with how many enemies you killed during skill activation. Maybe you seal the dead enemies, collect their souls sort of, and their energy is then released. Very in line with the Lich archetype and working a little bit like Vaal skills in Path of Exile. I can speculate a lot about this skill and I can't wait to try it out. Finally, the mage gets Ice Barrage. Well, to be honest, it already existed but no one played it. It's a channeling cold skill that looks cool, but that's really the only reason to press the button. It's a bit of a horizontal version of Avalanche, and I'm not sure what to make of this. I think conceptually it would provide the mage with a long range ice attack, but Glacier can be cast from a distance as well. Lightning Blast can be converted to cold. Channeling skills are flawed by their very design because you need to stand still, and while that's fine in the campaign, in the arena it's definitely not. The only viable channeling skills right now are the ones that either make you move, like Warpath, or the ones that allow you to turn the channeling skill into a single cast spell, like Avalanche. So where does this leave Ice Barrage? It's already got a disadvantage compared to the other similar mage ice skills, so I hope that specialization tree is really strong to make up for it. Especially in terms of defenses, while channeling I really want to see some viable options. Then, class passives. Unannounced change, check back soon. Then, items. Unannounced change. Check back soon. Sarno, what's happening here? This is the first time that EHG is teasing us in an actual preview post where they leave some stuff unsaid. And Sarno is a clever guy. He's aware, I'm sure, that this creates some anticipation and a decent amount of hype. And somehow, Last Epoch now has to deliver. I can imagine that if the unannounced change for items would be a bunch of new uniques, that some people are disappointed. And I would agree with them. I would understand that, because we get new uniques often. For class passives, it's even harder to predict what they got up their sleeve, but it has to be significant, I feel, to tease it like this. It has to be significant enough that these 2 unannounced changes will result in 2 more posts, probably the final 2 posts before the actual patch notes hit. And I'm expecting a bit of an upset. I'm expecting Last Epoch making significant changes here. Anything but a significant change would be perceived as a disappointment by many, I feel. To me, these two things left unsaid, as the thumbnail states, are the most interesting part of these patch notes. They piqued my curiosity, that's for sure. So mission accomplished, I would say. We move on to this sentence. All helmets and body armor now have 2D art that matches their 3D art. I found this very confusing, but Sarno was able to clear this up. Last Epoch is using a lot of old placeholder art for their 2D art, which is the stuff you see is basically the icons for your gear. This iron cask, for example. But if you look at your character, he's not wearing a cask, but he's like wearing a red leather hood. So the 2D art will be changed into a red leather hood. The ward bar gets an overhaul, which is really necessary. One of the main issues with the ward UI is that it's hard to figure out how much ward you have left. Sort of the point of a UI. Sure, there's a number, but in the heat of battle you want to see your ward in the blink of an eye, without having to look at numbers. It can cost you your life after all. Soon this will be fixed with a floating ward bar above your character. I would personally love to see the ward implemented in the health globe like Path of Exile does it, because it is just very clear. Let's see how useful the floating ward bar will be. More stuff got overhauled as well, like the skill trees and the character sheet. The chat system received a few changes, but I didn't find those particularly interesting, so let's skip them. New animations make their way into the game. This time it's the mage's turn. Some animations were previewed already and received a bit of mixed criticism. I myself felt that they were generally an improvement, but some kinda missed the mark, like Glacier. It's hard to judge from a 3-second clip, however, and I feel you really need to see this in a playthrough to properly assess the animations. I'm glad the new animation lead is making work of this rather massive task, honestly. By popular community request, the button in the Monolith of Fate that reset the entire instance has been moved. It was rather easy to misclick on the Monolith of Fate and then accidentally press this button, resetting your entire run. Many people, including myself, did that. That kinda felt bad, because you had to grind out like 15 timelines to get back at respectable loot and XP levels. Should be no issue anymore after the patch. And as expected, at least I expected this, the Lightning Blast bug that crashed your entire game client from time to time has been fixed. That's good news for those using Lightning Blast, and it's particularly good news for me because my beginner build using Lightning Blast, which is a really good build by the way, just saying, has become crash free again. I'll link it in the card. The post ends with optimization, which I will evaluate after I've played the patch for about 40 hours, and then I'll give my thoughts. Sarno ends on an interesting note, saying that 11th Hour Games is working on an overhaul of the tooltips. This was already planned in the forecast, and particularly the comment about minions is interesting, because it may help us in creating better minion builds by providing a better understanding of their scaling. And that's it, ladies and gents. Thanks so much for watching and making it to the end. See you soon. Bye bye.